Hello, friends. My name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's the first of the week, Monday, the 3rd of November, 2025. Today is day 759. I'm joining you today from London. I'm here for a couple of days for meetings, and then I'm actually going to Wales for a spiritual retreat with an expert on proximate trauma and working with war and conflict. I'll be doing a spiritual and mental health retreat, honestly. And I think all of us need that. I was supposed to do this in July and it got postponed because of some urgent things that came up, which is just kind of par for the course in the line of work that we're in. And yet our mental and spiritual health is so desperately needed. Might we depend on God and one another as we seek to work for justice and peace, an end to all violence, which continues to be so desperately needed. So here we are, day 759. In Gaza, the Israeli military killed 3 people on Friday, according to Palestinian health authorities. Residents reported that Israeli shelling and gunfire happened in the north of Gaza. Israeli forces yesterday killed a Palestinian man in a drone attack in Shujaiya in Gaza City. The Israeli military said the man had crossed into the yellow line, marking the ceasefire boundary, but not offering any evidence. People have said that Gaza is becoming like South Lebanon, where you have, a few people killed here, a few people killed there. Last week, there was a big attack and 100 people were killed. And we really saw minimal reports of it on the news, which is deeply disconcerting that these spouts of violence that result in the death of so many people are not considered a breach of the ceasefire agreement. But instead, somehow, the right for Israel to defend itself is built into the ceasefire. Well, all the while, the civilians in Gaza suffer. They're not the only ones. Certainly, people in Israel have lost much also. Those who were killed on October 7th. Trauma doesn't, follow these lines of oppressed and oppressor, right? When someone loses a loved one, it's a deep and devastating loss. Kind of doesn't matter the politics of it. So we as Christians need to have holistic perspectives that honor every single person who has lost a loved one, that honors every single person and sees them in the image of God, but also looks at the imbalances of power, looks at the fact that Palestinians are living under a military occupation without self-determination. They haven't had self-determination since 1948. Anyway, in Gaza, an Israeli drone wounded 3 girls at a wedding in Gaza City's Shujaiya neighborhood in the past few hours, which is divided by the yellow line. That's news of the last 24 hours from Gaza. In terms of ceasefire negotiations, the violations are happening every day. So says the Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jasmine Al Thani. He told CNN that yesterday. I feel like that's what I just said. It's so true. We work together. This is according to the Qatari Prime Minister. We work together very closely with Egypt and the US to make sure the ceasefire stays intact. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan is set to meet the foreign ministers from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Jordan, Pakistan, and Indonesia to discuss the Gaza ceasefire and next steps in Istanbul. Fidan is expected to urge concrete arrangements to be made without delay to ensure security and effective administration of Gaza, so said a Turkish foreign ministry source. We're still waiting to hear what this international stabilization force is. All last week, the focus was how Turkey would not be involved. Now the big question is Azerbaijan, which has a very close relationship, not only with Russia, but also with Israel. They have displaced and ethnically cleansed Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, which Armenians call Artsakh. Over the past year or two, 100 to 200,000 Armenians were displaced from that particular territory. And there's a big debate or question about whether or not Azerbaijani, or Azaris, I guess is the technical term, will be a part of this international stabilization force. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces yesterday killed 17-year-old Jami Atef Hanani in Beit Farik in the occupied West Bank. An Israeli settler this morning killed Ahmed Rabi al-Atrash, a Palestinian man in the Ras al-Jora area of the West Bank. Palestinian Red Cross said the Israeli forces blocked its crew from providing the man treatment after he was shot. UNRWA said on Saturday that October is on track to be the most violent month since UNRWA began tracking settler violence in 2013. Latest UN figures published Thursday recorded 126 Israeli settler attacks in 70 Palestinian towns and villages so far this olive harvest season. That's just in the last several weeks. In Israel, the remains of 3 deceased individuals that were handed over to Israel by Hamas on Friday night did not belong to any of the hostages. That's what Israeli media reported this weekend. Hamas said in a statement that it initially offered 3 samples from unidentified bodies so the Israeli authorities could test them. Israel refused, insisting upon further remains. Hamas handed the bodies over to stop the claims of Israel. So said their statement. Health officials in Gaza struggled to identify the bodies without access to DNA kits. The handover followed Israel's return of the bodies of 30 Palestinians to Gaza on Friday. And so that was kind of news over the weekend, but then Hamas handed over the remains of 3 additional deceased hostages to Israel. Forensic tests showed that those remains were those of 3 Israeli soldiers. So said Prime Minister Netanyahu's office this morning. The confirmation means that only 8 dead Israeli and foreign hostages still remain in Gaza. The parents of Captain Omer Nutra, his body was returned to Israel on Sunday, thanked President Donald Trump and his envoys for brokering the Gaza ceasefire and the hostage release deal. Secretary Rubio said that the slain hostage Omer Nutra's life is a testament to the resolve of Jewish people. On October 7th, this is the words of Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State. Omer Nutra was murdered by Hamas. After 758 days in captivity, his remains have finally returned home. Omer's death is tragic, but his life is a testament to the resolve of the Jewish people. We will never forget his story, nor the ultimate sacrifice he paid for peace. May that be so for every Jewish life lost and for every Palestinian life that has been lost, all 68,000 plus of Israeli military prosecutor General Major Yafat Tomer Yerushalmi resigned on Friday. This was before the weekend after admitting that she was the one responsible for releasing that video from the stay-tamen facility of the Palestinian detainee from Gaza. The Israeli soldiers who allegedly assaulted that detainee. Tomer Yerushalmi said she leaked the video to counter criticism that the military was prioritizing Palestinian detainees over Israeli troops. Defense lawyers for the Israeli soldiers charged with abuse against the detainee yesterday called for the trial to be dismissed. They said the legal process had been sullied. Now, Israeli media and news has been saying more attention has been paid to this Israeli military prosecutor and the case and her story than actually the alleged crime that was committed against the Gazan detainee. There are now, as I mentioned, 8 hostages' bodies that remain in Gaza. These are the last of the remaining hostages that were taken from October 7th. 20 living hostages and the remains of 20 deceased hostages have now been returned as a part of this latest ceasefire and hostage deal. After receiving the bodies of Captain Omer Nutra, Sergeant Oz Daniel, Colonel Asaf Hamami on Sunday, that's when the final tally was 8 bodies remaining. The 8 bodies that remain in Gaza include 2 foreign nationals and 6 Israelis. In Israel, judges in Prime Minister Netanyahu's corruption trial agreed to shorten his Tuesday testimony due to a, quote, urgent diplomatic meeting, end quote. The Military Advocate General's office told defendants in the detainee abuse case, this is that whole case related to the stay-tamen facility, that the Palestinian detainee who alleged abuse at Israel's stay-tamen detention facility was actually released into the Gaza Strip. In Lebanon, Netanyahu said yesterday that Hezbollah was seeking to rearm and that Israel would act as necessary if Lebanon failed to disarm the militant group. The Israeli military said in a statement that it had killed 4 Hezbollah members in an airstrike in the south of Lebanon. The IDF said that they killed Hezbollah's elite Radwan force, a commander, and a man observed attempting to gather intelligence on IDF troops, all in South Lebanon. In Yemen, detained UN staff will face trial in Yemen on suspicion of links to an Israeli airstrike that killed the top Houthi leaders in August. This includes the prime minister of the Iranian-backed Houthi government, the acting Houthi foreign minister, reported this. Of the 36 detained UN employees, it's unclear how many would stand trial. The UN has repeatedly rejected Houthi accusations that UN staff were involved. In the US, the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee challenged the California anti-Semitism law that is designed to protect Jewish students from discrimination, arguing it is unconstitutionally vague and violates their free speech rights. Part of the challenge is that there's this definition of anti-Semitism that seeks to conflate criticism of the state of Israel with anti-Semitism. The federal complaint was filed on Sunday in San Jose. It seeks to invalidate legislation Governor Gavin Newsom signed last month, creating an Office of Civil Rights to help schools identify and prevent anti-Semitism. State lawmakers approved the legislation as political tensions have flared in the U.S. over Israel's war in Gaza. The new law is set to take effect on January 1st. It does not define anti-Semitism, but gives educators the impression that they could be charged with discrimination if they expose their students to ideas, information, and instructional materials that may be considered critical of the state of Israel and the philosophy of Zionism. That's according to the complaint. Finally, closing with an update on Christians in the Middle East, I wanted to let you know recently the 10 of Nations put out an appeal for support during the olive harvest season. This is from Dawood Nasser and family. I write to you in a time of deep challenge in our land. The situation around us continues to be tense and uncertain. Our mission and faith remain firm. It's our daily choice to live differently by transforming fear into faith, hatred into love, and despair into hope. In recent months, we've faced ongoing pressures. Legal struggles continue in the Israeli courts as we seek to protect our family farm. Restrictions around the area have made access and daily work even more difficult. Yet despite these hardships, the Tent of Nations continues to stand as a sign of justice and steadfast, nonviolent resistance. This season, the olive harvest carries even deeper meaning. Our olive trees remind us that life can take root even in rocky soil. Every olive we pick tells the story of resilience. The harvest is smaller this year due to dry weather conditions, but every drop of oil pressed from our trees is a testament to faith that bears fruit through perseverance. We continue to welcome international volunteers. Those who come for days or weeks experience the spirit of the Tent of Nations by working and feeling the land, planting trees, and harvesting fruits. Together, we share the conviction that transformation begins from the ground up, from the heart outward. It is a difficult time, but we will not give up. Our hope is not a feeling, it's a decision. Every morning we rise, we choose again to believe that light is stronger than darkness. As the Apostle Paul writes, we're hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, struck down, but not destroyed. So says 2 Corinthians 4, 8, and 9. Your friendship and solidarity reminds us we're not alone. Together we form a global family that believes in and acts for justice. Your prayers, advocacy, and support are like water to the roots of our olive trees that are giving life. Let us continue to walk together, sowing seeds of hope, even in rocky soil, believing that one day these seeds will grow into a harvest of justice. With gratitude and steadfast hope. May it be so. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In the name of Christ. Amen.